What's up, guys, and welcome back. Perhaps the most anticipated balance patch from Marvel Snap has hit, and it does not disappoint. The most hated cards in Snap all got hit by the almighty Nerf hammer, as well as important key cards for meta balance. They were tamed, but not killed. Let's go and kick things off right away, waste no time, and jump into this card patch's balance. Now, of course, we have to start with Shuri, by far one of the most hated cards I've ever seen in Marvel Snap, and decks to combine with that. And I think they nailed it with the nerf here, right in the middle of the road, right? She's still going to be wildly playable, but at the same time, people that enjoy playing Shuri decks, it's not going to be terrible, right? Still a very competitive deck, but top double power isn't the end-all meta anymore. What they did is they left her at a 4-2, as you can see, but now you have to play on her location to get that double power effect. This is going to make things like, without having priority, playing Shang-Chi on that location way easier, because you know the card will come down and then you can kill it and counter it, or just committing to another lane, like you know they have to play on that location now. And at the same time, I think this is going to massively boost cards like Vision and Captain Marvel, because now they're flexible and they have that mobility. And that's great. I think they need a deck that they can work in really well. Overall, this looks like the perfect answer. I think it's really going to just broaden the meta and allow a lot of other decks to be competitive. Also, fun fact, they kind of gave Quake a small buff, at least for the first while, because you have to play the card on top of Shuri's location. And when Quake messes everything up, you don't play it on top of Shuri, you have to play it on the location. And so that could be confusing, and you can take advantage of that. And now we talk about Leech. 2 for 2 on the most hated card, second dinner. Gone are the days of Leech just completely nuking your deck on turn 3. I think the balance change here was perfect for a necessary evil and a card that kind of has to exist in Marvel Snap. Essentially, he's going to be the exact same if you play him on turn 5, but they got rid of his on-reveal ability, which is going to help a lot of things. We'll get to that. Now he's going to have a nuke, tactical nuke coming on turn 6. So when turn 6 arrives, all of your cards lose their ability. Now, if someone cheats them out, or they're playing a ramp deck, or maybe they throw them into Lockjaw, you can't do any of that anymore. It's not going to affect your hand. And so you'll have a couple of turns to dump what you're trying to do, get those combos out, and you have a little bit of a better chance to win. Things like Darkhawk, Silver Surfer, all those are going to be so much better to play now. And it also keeps Leech, somewhat of that necessary evil of keeping those decks in check that just dump all the cards down. Now, yes, some of you guys might look at this as just a change or maybe even a buff, but I think the ramping Leech was the biggest issue, and now you can properly play your cards. And also, it happens before turn 6 card draw, so it's going to nuke all the abilities, but not the card that you draw on turn 6. Again, overall, I think this was a really good change. It fixes kind of the core issue of why Leech was hated so much, at least for myself, right? If I went up against Leech and he came out of Lockjaw and then out came a Devil Dinosaur, or someone was playing Electro Ramp, like it never felt good. And so this is definitely a necessary change. Just 2 thumbs up. Oh man, Lockjaw has finally been addressed. I'm both happy and a little sad about this. I love Lockjaw as a card, very fun, but I think this is much healthier for the game moving forward. First of all, it just answers the Thanos problem as a whole. No longer do you have to pigeonhole Thanos into Lockjaw decks, and at the same time, it also kind of takes care of those decks just being this RNG machine of the meta, which they're fun. Don't get me wrong, I know a lot of you guys have enjoyed playing it, but for a healthy meta, I think this is going to be the right change. No longer can you dump him out on turn 6 and follow that with 3 stones and then see what you get. You can only do 1 card per turn cycling out of your deck for Lockjaw. I think this still keeps his kind of archetype great. Jane Jaw, for example, the deck right here, is still going to be plenty competitive, and the deck's going to work at its core. But now it's going to kind of limit those decks that just ride the RNG train. I'll be honest, I didn't expect Lockjaw to get the old yellow treatment, but I do still think he's going to be fine. This is one I think people are going to have some gut reactions to, but we kind of have to wait and see. Now let's move on to card buffs, which arguably I definitely like way more than nerfs. But with all the radical changes, there's a lot of cause and effect, and I think it's probably healthy to not do too much and see where everything ends up. Every Thursday now, outside of this week, we're going to be getting buffs to these other cards, and so that whole situation has been addressed. However, I gotta say, they brought back a card from the dead, people. In January, Leader was erased from the game, and they buffed him up, and I love what they did. Leader has gone from a 6-7 with the most complex kind of Rosetta Stone text you've ever seen to a 6-2 with the new ability of copying the opponent's highest power card that was played on this turn. Now, this also goes for Tide Power, though, which is great for cards like Dr. Doom. And right away, guys, love this. It's giving Leader a unique home. And even if you hated him back then, I don't think anyone wanted him deleted from the game. Actually, probably a few of you. But I think this solves a great problem. Doesn't make him overpowered. And now going up against like Hitmonkey, Deathwave, you can steal things like death or that hit monkey. But at the same time, you have to do a priority dance to make sure that you have your leader reveal after them so that Hitmonkey can build up power and you don't copy a 0 power Hitmonkey, right? So things like a ramp deck with Daredevil, I think it's going to work pretty good. Or even better, I think Ghost is going to be awesome to pair up with Leader, which is a new series drop card that we'll get to in a second. You can rest assured we're going to have some decks on Leader later in the week. I definitely see doing something like a turn 3 Wave, followed by turn 4 Sandman, then Leader on turn 5, and then what? Odin on top of the Leader? So yeah, it could be a problem. Now, in addition to Leader, we did get some card changes, not buffs or nerfs. I mean, you could look at it that way, and we'll kind of break it down. First of all, with Jubilee, she now adds the top card of your deck to the location. So this is going to work in tandem with next month's cards. We'll talk about that in a moment. And America Chavez has now been placed to the bottom of the deck, which now saves her from being hunted by Yondu. And Yondu's not the America Chavez hunter. But in turn, this does kind of hurt cards like Null that kind of relied on that Yondu synergy sometimes with the popularity of Chavez. And or the one that affects me the most is Cable. Sadly, Cable might have to be looked at after this patch because he's just going to be pulling Chavez left and right. Again, I think they got this out now to go and coincide with the releases in May. Things like Iron Lad and Howard the Duck, if you haven't seen it, both of these top deck interactions. All right, next up, let's go in and take this time to talk about card series drops. And as you can see, these are all the cards that will be dropping from Pool 4 to Pool 3 and Pool 5 to Pool 4. Now, this has got to be one of the best, if not the best, that we have seen as far as series drops go. Valkyrie is one of the best tech cards in the game currently, and I'm so pumped that everybody's going to have their hands on her with her going down to Pool 3. On top of that, Black Panther finally is dropping as well, who I think is much better than people give him credit for. Now that Arrow has been nerfed, you can do his Arnim Zola reveal effect a lot better. So super pumped about Black Panther. We have Super Skrull, who's been kind of a trash card for a long time, but with the recent buff to ongoing cards is much better, and he's great to put into a good amount of decks that need that one last spot, and he can counter a lot of decks out there with one strong effect. Now, in addition to these guys going to Pool 3, Shuri. Yes, the timeliness is not great. I'm sure they wish they could take this back. And it does suck that, not everybody got to experience the crazy meta dominating Shuri. But I can tell you, still going to be a very good deck type and card. And so you can still definitely get her with confidence. And definitely great to have more players having access to such a great deck, especially now that it's a bit more balanced. Now, last up, we've got Bast. And this is a card that seems underwhelming. But the more you play with her, you understand how great she is, even with something as simple as Iron Man. Definitely a great card going down to Pool 3. Now, going from Pool 5 to Pool 4, we only have a few cards, but all of them are pretty impactful. We can start with Ghost, who I think is underrated right now, but I don't think she is worth the tokens. And so go ahead and hold off for now, but as more players get to play her, we can definitely see if she's going to be worth the tokens later on. Now, Stature is a card that I haven't been able to be excited for because she's so new and you guys don't have access to her. But what a great card. I mean, seriously, she's like Miles Morales and Maximus combined into one. But the best part about her, outside of just working in a lot of decks, is you finally have an excuse to play Black Bolt. If a card has been discarded, you have her cost go down to 1, and Black Bolt obviously excels in that. And now you have a reason to play him outside of just the super BA variants that he has. Now, it's discard fever because we have MODOK as well, who is insane. He's a season pass card that seriously supercharges that archetype if you like discard. Really solid unlock and just an underrated deck that should rise with all these adjustments. And we're almost done, but we have a couple more things to address. The token shop has been completely kind of redone. We have an ultimate variant section. We have a section for series 4 and 5. And then you have the new card of the week that you can also see in the premiere spot. Now, I know they announced this yesterday, but we do need to talk about Kitty Pryde and the update surrounding her controversy, right? So people that unlocked her, they did pull her from the game. You can't currently play her in Marvel Snap. And the compensation took a while to get out the news, but my God, did they kind of blow expectations out of the water. Every single player gets a free Kitty Pryde, and those that purchase her get tokens back, an avatar, as well as obviously the Kitty Pryde back. And man, this is awesome because when you could play her, she was definitely a top tier card. Now, they are changing her a little bit, but now it looks like she'll have interactions with things like Beast and Falcon. which is great in what she can do. And I think she has a lot of potential, and it especially can give all the player base an option opposed to Sunspot as the most rivaled best one-cost card. So great response. I'm really excited about that, and we're going to get that in May. Now, lastly, we're going to spitfire some changes. They went ahead and made some good general updates. First of all, the game board has been updated, and all the smoothness of the game, the graphics, the VFX, everything just kind of works better. You'll see once you jump into a match and go through your collection screen, as well as players in the infinite rank will only match against other infinite rank players. Absolutely huge. They've changed a lot with the card details and examining cards, and so you can read all that right here, as well as a heap of other small changes, some of them not even in the notes, like Thanos getting a couple new voice lines. So there you go, guys. What do you think of all the nerfs and buffs? And I'm just excited to see kind of what happens to the latter. I mean, Shuri wasn't even like way out there and dominating since the recent changes to some other cards, and so now that's going to be thinned out. Lockjaw and Thanos thinned out, and everything's going to change. So there you have it, guys. That's all of it. There's a lot to take in, and surely Marvel Snap is a different game right now than it was even yesterday. So let me hear your thoughts. Curious about the nerfs and the buffs, but all I know is it's going to be fun to find some new decks. Speaking of that, I'll be having my decks on the rise now that all these decks people used are gone, and so look out for that tomorrow, guys. And as always, if you enjoy yourself here, consider subscribing. If not, no big deal, but I want to appreciate you and your time for hanging out and listening to the patches. Have a good one. Have a great one. Good luck out there, and until the next one, happy snapping.